Ryan's head rested softly on Jungkook's chest as she snuggled closer in her sleep. Jungkook slowly opened his eyes, blinking once before his gaze fell on her. His cheeks warmed instantly as memories of the previous night came rushing back. He glanced at the clock beside the bed, 5 p.m. Carefully, as if she were made of glass, he slid his arm out from beneath her head and gently placed a pillow there, making sure she didn't stir. Wine shifted slightly but remained asleep, her breathing calm and steady. Jungkook paused her for a brief moment longer, peaceful, unaware, before quietly pulling on his t-shirt with soft steps. He made his way toward the kitchen. Leaving the room just as silently as he'd woken, his heart still racing for reasons he didn't fully understand. He moved quickly, chopping the vegetables with practiced ease and keeping himself busy in the kitchen. Within no time, the food was ready. He neatly packed Yumi's lunch, making sure everything was set. Before wiping his hands on a towel, grabbing his feet in a hurry, he headed toward Yumi's room, his steps light and familiar, already slipping back into his role. Caretaker first, everything else later. He gently pushed the door open and paused for a moment. Yumi was sleeping peacefully, her face relaxed, blanket half wrapped around her. To him, she was still a child, his child, the one he had grown up protecting. He walked closer and sat beside her, brushing a few strands of hair away from her face. Yumi, he said softly, careful not to startle her. Wake up, it's almost time for school. She groaned in protest, burying her face deeper into the pillow. 5 more minutes, she mumbled sleepily, a smile tugged at Jungkook's lips. He shook his head lightly. 5 more minutes, she mumbled sleepily, a small smile tugged at Jungkook's lips. He shook his head lightly, amusement softening his tired eyes. No bargaining today, he said gently, up now. She peeked at him through half-open eyes, still fighting sleep, and sighed dramatically, finally pushing herself up as Jungkook waited patiently. The same quiet warmth in his gaze that had always been there for her. Jungkook slipped back under the duvet, careful and quiet. He wrapped his arms around her gently, pulling her close. Almost instantly, Wine shifted in her sleep, snuggling into him as if she belonged there, her head settling against his chest, her hand curling into his shirt. A soft breath left Jungkook's lips. He closed his eyes, holding her a little tighter, letting the warmth and calm sink in, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Jungkook leaned down and placed a soft peck on her cheek. Wine stirred, a small groan leaving her lips as she scrunched her nose slightly, still half asleep. She shifted closer to him, instinctively seeking his warmth, her fingers tightening around his shirt. A quiet smile curved Jungkook's lips as he watched her, his thumb brushing lightly against her cheek before he pulled her closer, letting the moment stay just as gentle and spoken as it was. Jungkook's arm tightened around her, holding her closer as if afraid she might slip away. Wine hummed softly in her sleep, nestling into his chest, her breathing slow and steady. He rested his chin lightly against her hair, closing his eyes for a moment, content, calm, and grateful for the quiet warmth they shared. Wine, get ready, he said gently, his voice soft against the quiet of the room. You know you have to go to the hospital today. Her eyes flew open. Shit, she murmured, realization hitting her all at once. She jolted upright in her hurry, the duvet slipping off her shoulder as she rushed out of bed, panic written all over her face. Jungkook just stared at her for a second, completely amazed. Then a soft laugh slipped out of him. You are so cute, he said warmly, shaking his head a little. Do you even know that? Wine froze for a moment and looked at him properly. Her shoulders relaxed as she let out a soft sigh. Jungkook, it's still 8:30, she said quietly, half amused, half sleepy. Jungkook laughed softly, the sound warm and unguarded. Exactly, he said, lifting the blanket, sliding and petting the empty space beside him. Come back, sleep. She hesitated for barely a second before giving in. With a small smile, she slipped back under the duvet, turning toward him. Jungkook wrapped an arm around her again, pulling her close, his chin resting lightly against her hair. This is dangerous, she murmured drowsily. You make it hard to leave the bed. He smiled against her forehead. Then don't, he whispered. Just 5 more minutes. Wine closed her eyes, her breathing evening out as she settled in into his warmth, and Jungkook stayed still, holding her like this moment was something fragile he never wanted to break. And with that, Jungkook quietly slipped out of bed and headed to the kitchen. While Wine got ready, he moved around efficiently, packing her lunch with the same care he put into everything for the people he loved. By the time she stepped out, trying her hair and checking the time, he was already zipping the lunchbox shut, a small satisfied smile on his face, as if taking care of her had become the most natural thing in the world. She picked up her lunch and wrapped her arms around Jungkook tightly. "I will come home early today," she said softly, her voice warm against his chest. He smiled and hugged her back, resting his chin slightly on her head. Yes, he nodded, simply but certain, like he trusted her words without question. She pulled back reluctantly, gave him one last look, and headed for the door. Jungkook watched her go, a quiet smile lingering on his lips, his heart strangely lighter than it had been in a long time. Jungkook walked beside her toward the parking lot, their steps naturally in sync. The morning air was calm, the soft sunlight falling over them as they reached the spot where Vine's car was parked. He stopped beside the driver's door, watching as she unlocked it, his gaze gentle, protective, unspoken. Vine looked back at him one last time and gave a small wave, her smile warm and lingering. Jungkook lifted his hand in response, a soft smile playing on his lips. "Bye, take care," he said gently. "You do," Vine replied. And with that, she turned the ignitions, the car slowly pulling away. Jungkook remained standing there, watching until her car disappeared at the end of the road. Only then did he let out a quiet breath, his smile fading into a thoughtful expression. Just then, the sound of tires rolling over gravel reached his ears. A black sleek van pulled up nearby, too smooth, too deliberate to be just passing by. Jungkook's posture stiffened slightly, his gaze sharpening as the van came to a stop a few feet away from him. The tinted window slid down just enough to reveal a shadowed figure in sight. His jaw clenched. Something about it didn't feel right. Before Jungkook could even react, the van's doors flew open. Two men stepped out swiftly, both dressed in black, both holding guns. The cold metal was pressed against Jungkook's chest and shoulder, making his breath hitch instantly. "Hey," his voice came out shaky. "What is this?" One of the men leaned closer, gun still aimed at him, his voice low and threatening. "Don't make a sound. Don't try to run." Jungkook swallowed hard. His hands slowly surrender. His heart pounded violently against his ribs, loud enough that he was sure they could hear it. "Please," he whispered. "I started into the street. I didn't do anything." The second man smirked coldly and grabbed Jungkook by the arm, tightening his grip painfully. "You are coming with us quietly." Before Jungkook could protest, they shoved him forward toward the van. Panic flooded his veins, Vine's face flashing in his mind. Yumi, the apartment, the life he had just started to feel safe in. "No, wait." He tried to speak, but one sharp warning push of the gun silenced him. The van door slid open, and in the next second, Jungkook was forced inside. The door slammed shut behind him with a heavy thud. The van pulled away, disappearing down the road, leaving nothing behind but silence and the echo of danger that had just entered in his life. A voice tore through the air. "Jungkook." The shout echoed down the street, raw and panicked. Vine's car screeched to a halt as she slammed the brakes, her heart dropping violently into her stomach. She twisted around just in time to see it, the black van speeding away. "Jungkook," her voice cracked as she jumped out of the car, eyes scanning the road frantically. "Jungkook." There was no answer, only the fading sound of tires against asphalt. Her breath came out uneven, hands trembling as the realization hit her all at once. Something was terribly wrong. She ran forward a few steps, helpless, eyes burning as she stared at the empty space where he had been standing just moments ago. "No," she whispered, panic flooding her chest. "This can't be happening." Her fingers curled into fist as fear turned into something sharper, something desperate. "I just left him," she murmured, voice shaking. "I just..." Vine quickly pulled out her phone with trembling hands, dialing his number. Ring, ring. No answer. She tried again, straight to voicemail. Her throat tightened painfully as she lowered the phone, tears blurring her vision, but her eyes hardened just as quickly. Whoever had taken him, they had no idea what they had just started. And Wine sore, standing alone on that road, her heart racing and fear burning into resolve, she would find Jungkook no matter what. Tears streamed down her cheek as her hands trembled uncontrollably, the phone nearly slipping from her grip. Her chest felt tight, too tight to breathe properly as sobs clawed their way out of her throat. She pressed a hand over her mouth, trying to silence the broken sound, but it was useless. Fear had already taken over her body. Jungkook, she whispered again, his name breaking apart on her lips. Her knees felt weak, her legs barely holding her up as the reality sank in deeper with every passing second. Just minutes ago, he had been smiling at her, teasing her, standing right here, and now he was gone. Her fingers shook violently as she wiped her tears, smearing them across her cheeks, but more followed instantly. She forced herself to inhale, even though her lungs burned, even though her heart felt like it was tearing itself apart. No, I can fall apart, she murmured to herself, voice trembling, but determined, not now. She straightened slowly, wiping her face with the back of her hand, eyes red, but blazing with fear and resolve, because crying wouldn't bring him back, but she would. Thank you for reading, and if you are someone new here, make sure to read my Indian book on Wattpad. Thank you so much.